G'day, this is Captainoob, and this is the Ultimate Aug family, a weapon pack containing 3 Augs, all ported from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. That is the new one in 2022, that game was made. And it's all complete with off-brand naming to avoid licensing troubles, but on the mod page in the weapons mod title, it actually calls them for what they actually are. But, you know, you gotta go for that COD authenticity here. This is not a HBAR Aug, this is a HCR 56. The HBAR Aug in real life is just a version of the Aug that has been modified a little bit to allow for sustained fire. It's also got an extended barrel to keep you nice and accurate whilst you're firing at range. This is an MX9 referred to as a Aug A3 Para, which is just a lightened version with a smaller caliber with a little bit of a converter in here so you can load the smaller magazines into it. It's a more compact version. You might want to use this if you're a paratrooper. I guess that's where the para thing comes out. Unless it's like a paramedic, you're running into a combat zone because someone's fallen over and grazed their knees, but I don't think it's come to that just yet. And lastly, we've just got the standard Aug A3 here, which is referred to as an STB 556. 556 meaning the rounds that it fires, and just like the 9mm version here, this one is chambered in the 38 rounds, which is close enough. Thumbs up. We don't have to take in any extra new ammo types for this thing, although there's probably a munitions patch somewhere floating around for those sticklers who want 100% 100% immersion for all of their gun mods and nothing else. We don't go for immersion here, as you can probably tell. Anyways, we'll get over the attachments here. Well, the weapons Austrian developed just before the 80s, and they're still in use today, so they must have done something right. But the attachments are as follows. So this one, you can only make in automatic form, unless you decide to choose a magazine which makes it fully semi-auto for like a full sniper version, but we're going to make this a powerful version. Now, all of these have a secondary attachment. We'll return it to a HCR, which gives it a different look. As you can tell, just below the rear sight aperture here, is that the name? But it looks like it's just, well, it separates it from the rest of the rifle. It makes it look a little bit flimsy, I guess. It looks a little bit cleaner that way, but this is futuristic because it's giving you that extra angle, that really sharp angle underneath that front sight. We don't have to worry about this thing breaking. We're in the land of fantasy here, so that's fine. Legendary effect is there if you need it. We will reject that. This particular barrel, you can either deploy or collapse the bipod. That's just cosmetic. If you feel like deploying it, then there you go. Next up, you've got grip tape here. A lot of these modification descriptions have been taken from Call of Duty, so they don't really mean anything. Just pick the one that you think looks cooler. We're going to go for the Q900. Excellent. Next up, we've got the stock, which gives you a little bit of padding here and there. Just choose what you want. This looks pretty comfortable. This one says, get sight faster with increased aiming. Completely meaningless, but it does reduce the weight slightly as I get an idiot savant proc doing that. Don't you worry, there will be a much more fitting time for us to acquire that. Anyway, so right now I've got the standard barrel, but as you can tell, if I change the barrel over, it'll take that bipod off. I kind of like the barrel as is right now. It's giving me a decent range tap. The only better ranged barrel is the 24.4 inch Bruin S620, which has a Picatinny rail on it, so I'm guessing we should utilize those. And we've gone over to the muzzle slot here, which means we can, I think we've unlocked some extra features, I suppose, here. Extra modding attachments. We're going for a giant suppressor on this thing, although I should mention there's a couple of muzzle brakes and other recoil control muzzles for your disposal. That's a Russian suppressor. Big burrito on the end of this. Let's do it. That's fine. But a lot of these you'll find are from Call of Duty, so, you know, if you've got a specific loadout that you use in Warzone, you could probably very easily recreate it in Fallout 4, but we're going for full performance here, so we'll move on. So right now, we've got a rail lower attachment here, which will take off this inbuilt grip here and just add a Picatinny rail in its place, where you can choose in multiple grips, including a grip with a bipod if you've already gone off your bipod. There you go. There's the grip pod that I wanted. I had one of those once in a Nerf Stampede. It was a great weapon. Alright, you can't change the body. None of these can change the body, so that's just there to keep it as is, I suppose. And next up, we've got the cone, which is your little cheek rest that you can utilize on this rifle. So I'm going to throw in that one because why not? It'll assist in recoil control, Perfect. There's nothing that indicates that to me on the weapon card, but we'll go for that. And you can change the animations from standard to fast hands. It'll give you a faster reload if you choose that. That's always a pretty good thing. And I don't think we've seen magazines yet, so we'll go from a 60-round drum here. Although that looks kind of cool, I don't think it'd be typically comfortable using a bullpup weapon with this giant magazine in the way. You can go for a 100-round magazine here, which is, it's longer and probably a little bit more comfortable, and will give me an extra 40 bullets, so I feel like for an LMG type role, that's probably the best. There's another idiot savant proc, but that's not what I was talking about. And this one, the singe tap mod, maybe that's a typo there, single tap. It'll change it to a semi-auto form, increase your damage so you can use it more as a sniper weapon, but you've only got a 10-round magazine there. So if you want to use this for a sniper role, then go ahead and chuck that on, but I think we'll be fine with that. Now, I don't think we've used sights yet, but as you can tell, the optics choices are many, like Call of Duty many, which means you've got all these off-brand things. Like, I think I spotted a DF-105. That's just a Russian Cobra reflex sight, but we'll move on from that. We'll keep scrolling down, and there's one thing that caught my eye whilst messing around with this before, and it's called the SZ Heat Source 800, which the description, well, if you saw it, you saw it. But don't you worry, there's method to my madness here. I'm not a madman putting this on the top of my gun. Don't you worry, but it all makes sense very, very soon indeed. And lastly, and doesn't look like we're going to be getting much out of the Picatinny rails, although we do have a muzzle slot, a slot here for a laser beam on the side to increase your hipfire accuracy if we weren't overdoing it enough already. You can have a blue beam, red, green, it's all the same to me, I'm colorblind, but also in many different shapes or sizes. Although, if you want to have a good look at them, you got to switch over and flip your gun over every time you do that. And I think that's kind of it for this particular rifle, and most of the attachments are the same going over from the MX9 to the STB, but they do a little bit differently for this one. So for now, we'll just go over to the MX9, whack the powerful receiver on it, change the comb from that one. That one looks cool. The tactical here, we'll throw on a little bit of a laser sight. That one is fine. Next up for the sights, as it's SMG, so I don't think a scope is going to be that useful on it. We'll get something nice and open. If there's a Basker reflex sight, that would be pretty good to use. Hopefully Call of Duty has one of those. That's good enough, and we've gone straight over to the barrel modification, which you can extend the barrel out to 508 mil. I was reading the range there. And that's pretty much as long as you can get it, and you can change the magazine capacity to 30 rounds if you wish. Now, there's also a muzzle slot here. If you want to throw a suppressor on this thing as well, you can do that, and if you got Ace Operator, then that's a pretty good choice. 154 damage is quite a lot, especially for a weapon that's only using the 38 rounds. So that's pretty good. We'll change the stock, give it more padding. It looks comfortable, doesn't it? And you can have a fast hands here like you would with the other. And now you get some blueprints, which you can put some cool paints on it. So you can have camo, the white with purple on it, red. The red looks pretty cool, I guess. But I'm guessing, well, I think the best looking version of this is just the standard black paint on it. But there you go. That's it for the modifications for these particular weapons. And like I said, it's going to be pretty much the same here. But if there's anything here that I think is particularly noteworthy, I'll call it out, but for now, we'll just go and shoot stuff. In order to get these weapons, you can either craft them on a workbench or go to very specific locations to pick them up. On screen now, hopefully I remember. But there's also extra blueprint versions of these, which have paints. You could access the Fast Break, Battle Rhythm, and an Imminent Peril paints on the MX9 for some reason, but the HCR ones, there wasn't any modifications for that, so I'll show you what they are, and this one especially, I think, is egregious. So we'll get out of there, and we'll go back onto this thing, and here's Razzle Dazzle. Yep, that's fine. Pretty cool, very bright paint, looks like a Nerf gun. Vitriol, I think, is, that's cool. It's got some letters on it. It's black and white. Can appreciate it. A bit of green in it as well. That's pretty neat. And then there's Waifu. No, get out of here. And that's it. Probably won't be using these things, although I could make a sniper version of that. If I wanted to say the better paint, I'd go for that one. So we'll keep Razzle Dazzle, we'll turn into a sniper, and then we'll get started. Okay, as it turns out, Razzle Dazzle can't use a scope, so we've just pulled out a regular HDR for it, but that's fine, don't worry about it. Alrighty, so we're outside of the Immersive Gunners Plaza, and here is the monster HBAR that I've created, complete with a gigantic non-see-through scope, a grip pod at the front, and a long-ass barrel and the biggest suppressor I could find. Perfect, right? And here is a smaller version of an AUG with a tiny little magazine in there, a longer barrel, and funnily enough, it's got a longer range stat than the one that I made firing a 5.56 round without a suppressor, so there you go. And yeah, this is the unsuppressed version of this one. Again, the SMG version of this one looks pretty good. And the sniper version, which has a different sort of scope, but it's got a 10-round magazine, and tactical reload is active. So, hang on. It's probably prudent to show this off on a magazine, which I can easily expend it. So, when I shoot one round, you just reload the next magazine in, no problems, and then you'll just hit that bolt release when you reload an empty version. So, yay, tactical reload, get around it. It's working now. All it took was a few patches that I already downloaded, but it installed differently, or not properly. Anyways, here's why I chose a scope on an automatic version. Because there is no recoil. And I can take like 1 billion shots at my enemies because A, I've got a 100-round magazine. It may as well be 1,000,000 rounds because it's... And despite what little spread that this thing produces, the amount of bullets that I can get downrange at a very... And like at no time at all. Like if I miss the occasional shot, like there's 14 other bullets with their name on it coming down the road anyway. So we're going to do this as cheaply as possible for as long as possible. But if you want an AUG that is going to be as powerful as this, I just haven't ever seen anything quite like it. And perhaps this reload system here, and there's a bolt release. Yeah, nice. And is that gun landed yet? Yes, perhaps a weapon system, maybe for a weapon that has recoil like this, maybe that would be more suiting to its COD version, or perhaps a little bit of an oversight. But, you know, you give me the ability to throw a giant scope on this thing, and then a 100-round magazine at this rate of fire with this kind of damage, it's going to be a little bit of a bloodbath. So we'll put away the quietness and we'll bring out the just standard Aug A3 with the 42-round magazine, just so we don't have to reload during the kill, but that still might happen anyway, because the power differentials here, well, they're quite significant. I think we flattered the weapon a little bit with the constant sneak criticals, but that isn't to say that it's overpowered. Well, maybe. You could certainly argue. But we're in close quarters now, so we better switch to an SMG, right? Take that. That was a very fast bolt changing. I think that was a proper no-scope as well, so, you know, we're bringing out COD on all levels here, but everything's going pretty well so far. I guess there's no real excuse for me not to go for headshots to increase our damage that way, because the weapon's not going to fight. It's as gentle as a dove landing on your windowsill in the morning. Although, the current activity would not be... I don't think a dove would approve of this mindless killing, but here we are. So, the little bit of extra damage that we get out of the version with the 10-round magazine, it's 320 damage. The range on this thing is... It's alright. It's probably not the best sniping weapon you've ever seen, but for the amount of bullets we can get on very quickly, you've got an RPG. Put that down, you cheeky bastard. There's a sniper knockdown. I was wondering if they were going to happen. The fact that they are happening is good, because if we get a sniper knockdown and we can cover our reloads pretty nicely against a target which might be able to stand up to a little bit more punishment. But we'll get to that a little bit later. For now, I think the family of AUGs here is making a meal. A meal? No, that's when they're doing badly. I think it's just a relentless crushing of the gunners here, and this is going to be a defeat that they certainly won't forget anytime soon. The ease is probably one of the easier, cruisier runs I've had. And that might be just because I killed just about half of them just by looking through a scope with no recoil and just mowing them down from a distance that it was incredibly safe. So, yeah. Things are going pretty well here. We'll go for a bashing animation here. That's what it looks like. Unfortunately, no Warfighter Workshop overpowered bash damage. So, I don't know. Maybe that's just part of the Warfighter charm, but this is a different mod author. Maybe I shouldn't be mentioning them. But, you know, it's cool to draw comparisons. Some people do things a little bit differently, and it's what the differences that are most interesting about it. And, whoops. Let me just reload this thing. I think someone spawned with a missile launcher there and couldn't fire it without endangering the others. So he ran up and punched me in the face. But we've made it through that, leveling up at the end. So basically, flawless mission, absolutely no wounds, no blood, we're all clean, still smiling. So just like the simulations, as I would say, in 2005. And with concentrated fire on a target with constant sneak criticals, I think you might be pleased by what we're going to get out of this. So we'll go for headshots here because, like, why wouldn't we, right? Because we can just keep the cursor directly on his head, maybe bob around to match his walking animations. But I think it's going to be lights out in less than 2 magazines. Let's see here, maybe 1.5. Pretty much 155.56 rounds, and we've already done the job, which is great because we might actually get to see some of that back, perhaps. We got 3. Okay, but we managed to get 1,500 bottle caps, so, you know, swings and roundabouts. If you tally up all the loot that we get out of that, I'm pretty sure that is a profit running a business here, the killing business. And let me tell you, business is good. Thanks, Dave Mustaine. I repped you off there. All right, time to get sniping. Get a quick sniper knockdown on this guy, cover our reloads, and keep those bullets coming. And should we do that, then we can kill this guy without him even getting anywhere close to me. It's like I've blown off the ghoul's legs. You know, you can do that in the vanilla game where they've got legs that are crippleable. That's pretty good. Alright, maybe a little bit of time in VATS. I've been sleeping on VATS a little bit during this just because it's not as fast. Could use some crits here. A little bit of a mysterious stranger help. I don't hate it, but that might be a problem if he gets way too close to me. But we've got a little bit of a clutch sniper knockdown there, so I think we'll be fine. There we go. A little critical strike there, doing about, I don't know how, 144 damage, I think I saw. And that's pretty good. Anyways, there's some legendary gunners down there, and, I think we'll just go back to the old tried and true method. I think these guys are supposed to be cloaked, but they're not. And I think they're aggroed by something else, so we're getting full damage penalty at the moment. We'll run in nice and close. We're not getting sneak criticals anyway. So I think this is a pretty good version to use. And maybe their stealth boys have worn off because they're not reactivating new ones. And maybe that guy was disarmed somehow because he's not carrying anything. I think there's one right behind me. That one's using a grenade launcher. You'd think you'd be doing a little bit more damage to me, but, you know, grenades... I've probably got a dense chest piece somewhere. That might be working. Or it might be pneumatic for stopping staggers because, you know, being staggered when someone gun bashes you, that's no good. Anyways, look, I think you get the point. The Aug family has just steamrolled everything. I wouldn't even say steamroller, more like a hydraulic press that has just crushed a car, like a really badly made car, like an MG. It's made an MG out of everything in the Commonwealth, and do I call it overpowered? Nah, maybe. Look, that's up to you for yourselves. If you feel like it's too much, there's a bunch of other Aug mods around that might be more balanced to your liking, but I can't deny this has been an incredibly fun weapon to use. And if you'd like to see this thing in your game, check out the link in the description. It'll be down there, and the file size isn't even that bad either, so that's great. A couple of animations in third person here. A little bit of a ghost mag thing going on here. Does that happen with all of them? No, but that one's slightly different too, but that's great. Doesn't think the tactical animations, tactical reload doesn't really work in third person there. I still saw, that, what do you call it, that charging handle being pulled there, but that's not a deal breaker for me. Tactical reload, get around it when it works, it's fun. But yeah, like I said, link in the description if you want it, check out it. And if you don't like this thing with a more measured, perhaps a little bit less COD-driven version of this, there is I'm sure I've seen an Aug family somewhere, maybe a couple of years old at this point, and by far I think this is probably a better mod on balance. But, you know, if you're not too keen on the COD ports in this thing, it breaks your immersion somehow, then you've got options. So I'll be leaving those in the description if you want. Thank you very much for watching, guys.